Hello, my friends. Sure hope you're doing well today. Back with another painting here. I went ahead and filled in the background with a mixture of black and blue because you don't need to see me take a big brush and just paint one solid block of color. All right. I'm going to start with this work. Got three faces we're painting in. I'm just starting with the white, burnt sienna, and black that I need for skin tones. Skin, and paint in the shirts. Then last we'll do the hair and other accoutrements that might be on there. So let's go ahead and get started here. Since I'm right-handed, I work left to right. That way if I'm on the canvas, working with the brush, I'm not dipping my hand into wet paint. Hands get messy enough painting as it is. I don't need to make it worse. So, start over here with the lady. Take some sienna, some white. Just get a little mix going for our base skin tone. I'm just going to put a little bit an acrylic pouring medium in there to keep it. It'll just help keep it a little wet longer. Now all I'm doing right now is getting the base color of the skin tone in. Basically halfway between the lightest and the darkest. You don't have to do it this way, but I just found that this works for me. And you might be seeing there's a little blue in there. That's because I sketched it out with a blue watercolor pencil. And the water in the acrylic makes it drown. Doesn't make it drown, but the water in the acrylic kind of makes it mix into the paint. But we'll be going with layers over this, so it's not a huge deal. I need to bring that forehead up a little higher than I have it. And well, since we will be painting layers over this, it's not super important to get it even. You do want to get it about as even as possible. Just make your life that little bit easier as we start adding in details. Put just a little touch more blending medium in there. Painting over the corner of her mouth. Didn't need to do that. We'll leave you with that corner. Give us the shape. There, to cover up a little more of that blended in blue. As I'm sure you can see, I'm not painting over her eyes because I don't want to. I want to leave those there so we can get those painted in. Touch up that mouth a little bit. Clean my brush. white. I just kind of want to lighten up. Not get that perfectly white, but lighten up the corner of the mouth there. One thing I can see is I am going to want touch crimson. So that might be too dark, so let's go with a little permanent red out on the canvas. Alright, next thing I want to do is paint in her eyes. I'm going to mix. See, eyes should not be perfectly white. There's blood vessels and there's shade and all that. We're just going to get a little bit of color on the cornea. I need to touch that up a little bit here and there. And also need to reshape the bottom of the eyes a little bit. She's got a big smile, so it's pushing the bottom of the eyelids up just a little bit. So I should do from her cheeks rising up with that smile. All right. Then I get some black and a little bit of that sienna. I'm gonna get a little pour the medium in there to thin that out almost to an ink. Get some eyelashes in there. They pretty much come up to the edge of her iris. Make those a little thicker down here. Pull the eye a little bit. Then we'll do the same on the other side. Then get some more sienna in there. I need that a little brighter. Don't want it super bright. Color in the iris. I can see that I do need to push up the bottom of the eyes there a little bit. A little wider than in my source photo. This isn't a commission painting or anything, it's just for fun, but I still want it to actually look like people in it. Hopefully you'll be able to tell who it is by the end, but if you can't, that's okay. I can just let you know. You can get off of there. More of that line color. Twirling the brush to get a nice sharp line. take a little crimson, white. Yeah, probably need more crimson. Actually, get a little crimson and a little bit of sienna. Just for little muscle attachments in the corners. But he has in their eye there. Okay. His eyes are still looking a little too light, so we'll get a little more of that. Slightly darker brown mixture. That should work. Get some black for the pupils. Get finer point brush, just tap it white. Little highlights in the eye. I'm actually gonna get a little black on that point. That's too much. Let's just turn it in there. There we go. As you can see, perfect example of why I'm going left to right. Get a little wet paint on my fingers there. Sharpen these lines in the corners, make them a little darker. Okay. Now there's a few little lines in the eyelids. Paint in. Everybody has creases in their eyelids. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to close. Now lighten that up a little bit. That might have been too much. Folds under the eyes. Get a different brush here. Now we can make some lighter color. Start working on some of these highlights. Bit. Just a little hint. Cheeks over here just to help us shape everything later. Got some here on the upper eyes where the light's hitting. Forehead, coming down into the nose a little bit there. A little more brown in there. Gonna mix on the edge here, where it's not quite as bright, but also not quite as dark. That might have been there. Lighten that up a little bit more. And then we can actually pull some of that down to shape her nose. And again, you don't have to be perfect in this. We're just trying to block out some color. and shapes. You can put more detail in as needed later on. Get some highlights there. Highlights on the side of the mouth. This needs to come out a little further. Her eyes. Highlight on the ear there. Let's go ahead and get her eyebrows painted in. Actually, before we do that, let's take a little bit of that permanent red. That lighter skin color. Let's add a little more sienna to it as well. Get a little blush on her cheeks. That's a little too light. Let's get a little more sienna in there. Still might be too light. Yeah. Even more sienna. Let's get a little touch of that crimson in there too then. There we go. I don't know if it's showing up on camera, but there's just a very little hint of red in that mix for a little blush. Okay. Now I'm going to take more sienna and a little more white. Needs a little more sienna. Still a little too bright. That should be good. And he's got some shadow on the side of the face here. Coming all the way down. Okay, now we can let's get a little bit of that dark mix again. A little more sienna. Now thin it up. And we can get her eyebrows in. That's why I left those little gaps in there. That arch comes again about the top of the iris. That'll come down a little bit. Okay. A little bit more of that mix there. I might have got the wrong brush for that, so we'll clean this little feller. Just use that to flatten it out a little bit for that shade. Some of that shade on the side of her nose coming down. Push that out a little further. General shape of her nostrils in there. Then we get that thin line again. Let's even mix a little more sienna into it. Get it thin. can see. Now I'm seeing a little bit. I need to pull that highlights on this cheek here down a little further. Match it up over here. It's a pretty consistent lighting on her face. I feel like the bottom of her nose is a little too wide. It's more of that skin shade color. Actually, no, I just didn't bring the bottom of her nose down far enough. Bring that down a little further. That sharper line back in there again. There we go. That's better. One little light. She's just got a little mole right here, so we'll put that in. That skin shade around it. A hint of white paint there just to bring it out a little more. All right. I need to bring that shade up a little further as well on that side here. There's still too much paint right here, so I'll pull some of that off. Got a couple little moles on this side. Kind of putting that there, so we got that one. Got one right here. One right there. We put little details in our ears now. Couple other thin little lines into the eye there. And not an age thing, just what's the word I'm looking for here? Just a texture thing for the skin. Okay. Eyes on the face. That slightly bigger brush with a little more sienna. Just kind of doing that to separate the face from her neck. That should be roughly the same color as her face. It's got a little bit of that blue from the pencil showing through, so I'm just gonna cover that up a little bit. And before I move on to the next phase, let's maybe we should paint in her mouth. Probably not a bad idea. Red in there. Let's thin that up just a touch. Get the base coat in for those lips. I want to brighten that bottom lip. Do highlights on it. Get a nice thin liner. Just get some CNN. Base lip coat. That's a little too light. Let's just go ahead and go with pure sienna. Shade on that bottom lip. Brush in a whole shade. Here to give the chin a little more shape. That was a little too much there. I'm just going to use my finger to scrape some of that off and soften it out. Since that paint is still wet, I can actually take a white in there to soften it. That's better. Don't want it to look as harsh. I need to do a little reshaping on her nose, I feel like. Over here. Mainly more shade coming down on that side. A little bit over here as well. Thin up the nose a little bit. Nose. I did want to extend that a little bit, but that was way too much. Also made I had to jump over here a little bit. Almost made it look like she had a broken nose, and I didn't want to do that. That's better. Still not quite where I want it to be, though. Let's thin that bridge up a little bit more. And I am going to just get some more of that black mixed with some sienna. Thin it up. I'm just gonna kind of up top. Put a little of that on there. Just kind of get the shape of her hair in. Not out of the way, not getting any details. The main thing I'm doing this is it can help me see if I need to do any work on the overall shape of her face. That isn't obscured by her hair because the colors will match up better. But I think I'm doing all right. I think it's about where I want it. Mix it a little more of the sienna, just to help it contrast it from the background there. Alright, that's as far as I'm going there. I'm going to mix up. Let's mix up. Got some black in there. Probably from the towel I have, and I'll have to clean my brush out. A little crimson. We'll see it on some white. I'll take a little bit of that red in there. I think it needs more sienna now. There we go. Kind of want a bit of a creamy color. And just for now, putting in shape for where the arms should be. Yeah, we do need to thin that up, don't we? Yeah. That's better. Sharp line there. Paint. Get some more of that, a little more of that hair color. Coming down to that. Thin that up again. Down to about right. About here, I feel like. That's a little more close to the actual hair color. Okay. And we take mainly sienna. Got the brown in there. A little more of the thinning medium. Keep these edges. Talking. And if you have texture in there you don't want while the paint's wet, just pull through with your brush. Get the fabric of a shirt going all in the same direction. Now I need some more of that red and crimson. Then it up again. Try to keep it. Again, try to get your texture lines going all about the same direction. And again, for this is just the base coat. So it doesn't need to be completely even. And if you wanted to use a larger brush to make that go up, to fill that in quicker, you could. I'm just sticking with the same one, so I mean brush strokes are pretty much the same texture. Mix a little more of that. I got a little black in there that I didn't want. Let's see, that's a little dark. Just a little white. Take a little bit of that color over on the other side too. Alright. Get a little brown and black mixed up over here again so we can shade in on the shirt. Liner, I'm just going to take some black. Stitch to the color. Shirt. Shade, so we can get in a little bit of shade, a little bit of texture on the shirt here, or on the jacket, I should say. Liner again, just right in the same sienna. Get a sharper shadow outline between the layers of the jacket. Okay, I think I'm gonna get a bigger brush here. Go over this area here and even the shirt overall again. Yeah, I think I'm gonna need to actually. I might need to let that sit a little bit and have what's on there dry. We'll see. I think I want a little more of that crimson color. Just to get a little more contrast. And yeah, I'm gonna need to let that dry before I do any more work over here, other than getting some of this color over here. Do have some detail work we're gonna need to do. Don't get me wrong. I feel like those sleeves are a little too bright. So let's go ahead. Yeah, that's better. All right, let's darken that shirt up. Gotta leave the collar showing a little brighter. Maybe get in a grayish brown. Desaturate a little bit. Separate the shirt from the other fabric that way. Okay. Now I feel like I'll let that sit. That's actually feel that hair a little more. That area is too wet, so we'll finish that up later. We can get more of that hair in over here. Right now, just kind of doing the base color. So don't need detail. Just kind of a shape over here. Okay. All right, now we can let that dry up. Now we can work on the next face. Alright. Again. I'd actually go over that in some white first, because I must have had too much of the colored pencil on there. It's blending in with that green. That green is really showing. I don't want that. So we're just going to go over it. Thin layer of white first. To get that blended out so it doesn't show up through our skin. That white again. Okay. It's also helping my skin color kind of glide down a little bit. Better. Cleaner. Okay. Go ahead and give them black just for right there. I think I need a little on the other side. Make some good base color for his hair. The shape of this hair doesn't give away. Do I'm painting in, I don't know what will. Let's just say the shape of the color. But I'm still not going to say it. But I start getting in some details on that face. I think it'll be pretty self-evident. And then based on her face and the Dr. Zayas jacket she's wearing, I think you'll know who the third person in this painting is going to be. I think. Depending on if you listen to their podcast, and if you don't, you should. Because it's always good for a ton of laughs. Let's push that out a little. further over there. There we go. Clean that brush, get a little more of that pale skin. Just do one base coat on there, here and there. Get a little bit of that copper, that Irish red in there. A little bit of that shade color there. Separate his face from his neck. And a little bit of that color there again. The first coat for the neck paint, and obviously we'll need another one. Even up some of these lines off. Clean the brush. Oh no, that's not the color I want. I want the shade. His face drooping a little too much there. Gosh darn it, yeah, a little too much shadow there. And maybe that's just where that translucent Irish skin is sinking in. Okay. A little deep blue over here. Let's try to get there. Got too much shade over that ear. So we'll just get another layer of paint in there. Okay. Like, get some over his neck now too. More of that greenish color. Okay. Some of that dark brown so you can get in. Be about right here. A little thin and medium in there. Okay. went a little too far, but we can fix that up in a minute. Fix his chin up there a little bit while I'm at a little divot in the middle he doesn't have. Kind of pull that brush to a point. Okay. White. That skin base, just brighten that up. Don't worry, I'm painting over that line a little bit, but it will be difficult to put it back on. There, I just want a little lighter color. This again, not white, but brighter than his skin. It's difficult because there is not much in this world that exists that is lighter than this man's skin. I really shouldn't lie, I'm pretty dang pasty myself. Shouldn't say lie, I should say I shouldn't talk. So I am pretty dang pasty. I don't do well in the heat, so I don't get a whole lot of summertime sunshine. The little coming in the corners of his eyes. Okay. Now I need some of that blue. I want a clean brush for this. Do another layer later just because I had that loose, I had that wet white paint in that kind of bled into the blues. That brush is leaving a texture that I'm not too fond of. Let's get our little itty bitty guy. A little thinner and a little black. Call it thinner, but it is just an acrylic medium. And it acts like a paint thinner would for an oil paint. But I paint with acrylics, so oil-based paint thinner would not work. And honestly, as long as you don't get more than, say, roughly a quarter of your mix with it, you can just use water. But any more than that can kind of screw up how well your paint adheres to the canvas. Because when the acrylic dries, it dries with a honeycomb structure. So it allows it to stick. That's a little too light. So if you go more than 25%, they say definitely more than 30%. Over time, your acrylic paint is very likely to kind of flake away from a canvas as it dries. So by using this acrylic pouring paint liquid, that does is when that dries, it dries with the same honeycomb structure as the acrylic paint, so it doesn't affect the structure of the dried paint. So you're not going to lose that. Not going to lose that tensile strength, I guess would be a good way to put it. And again, use less than a quarter water. You'll have enough of that polymer in the drying in the honeycomb shape. I still just prefer to use that pouring medium, so that if I do get a little too much mixture in with the paint, it's not going to screw it up as it dries. Okay. Let's go ahead and get a little shade on the side of his head. Need a little more cement in there, don't I? There. More than halfway up his face. Get a few little shaded areas. Okay, now we can get some white in there. Again for lighter paint. Get some highlight in there. Suppose now we should get just as faint as they are. We should go ahead and put his eyebrows in. Thin, straight line. Very solid. Just a little hint. Shade right in there. Put a vein around that eye end. This color on a thinner brush, we can keep his nose in. I feel like I'm gonna have to lower the bottom of his face a little bit, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I'm pretty sure by now anybody who's familiar with late night TV in the last 30 years or podcasting, comedy in general, recognize Conan and Brian here. Well, actually, maybe his chin is in the right spot. I'd like to get a little darker line for that lip line. Brush tool. And shade at the bottom of his nose. Now take just a little slightest touch of red for his lips. Not a whole lot, obviously. You don't want a whole lot there. This isn't his Mary Kay remote that he did. That would have been a fun painting to do, though. Yeah, I'm gonna need to lower that chin a little bit. So what I need to do first, before I worry about that, not move up too high and really lower his chin. I'm just gonna paint over some of that shadow around his neck. So I don't need to drop it a whole lot, just a little bit. Maybe a quarter of an inch, or just a little more. That's not quite right either. It's too sharp. Just seeing it on the eyes there. A little bit darker there, just a couple areas where his eyebrows are a little more vibrant. His nostrils a little more human-sized. Don't need to give him any help looking like a freak. Okay. A little more white in there again. I need a little more chin. Let's get a little more white in there. All right. A little of that lip color again. It needs to be a little darker. So we'll get a little more of that crimson into it. We'll wait till that lip color paint dries a little bit. And get a little bit of that lighter skin color so we can get the highlight on his lip. Do little highlights in here. Okay. Here. Little highlights here and there. More little shadows here and there. Take a little more of that lip color now. Feel like I have a little too much highlight on there. Put a little shadow. Just a lip. A little sienna into that lip color. Put it up again. Get that in there. Okay. shade in some areas. Oh yeah, it needs to be. These need to be shaded straight across. Pull this shade out a little bit. Okay. Leave his face alone for the time, his hair alone for the time being, do a little work on the shirt. Red, just a red color. A white t-shirt, kind of straight out of the 80s. It's going to go into that white. Look. A little dingy, not white. We'll do another light in here too, don't worry. Just kind of setting the tone for his shirt. With a smaller brush for a few little areas there. Right up here. Some of that out. There. Get a nice little stain on it. Couldn't get bleached out. Work some of that into the t-shirt. Don't want pure white. Kind of want a slightly dingy off-white. I don't know why I think that's funny. I just think it is. Maybe not. Maybe dingy is the wrong word. Just well worn. Well worn. Back in some of that red again. Even up the collar some. Okay, I'm going to go ahead take a little break. Let some of what I have here dry before I get into Goldie's face over here.